So when I hear virtual inauguration, I have to say that the first thing that comes to mind for me with the work that I've done on computer games is what we're called, and still are sort of called sometimes, virtual worlds or massively multiplayer online games, and attempts to hold events in those as much as 10, 15 years ago. And for the most part, that's not a good precedent, for a lot of reasons. For one, it's hard to set up something in an environment like that looks like you want it to look. Like, to make Joe Biden as a character figure is hard. There's not a great selection always of avatars that might represent a president, a Congress, any of the people that you would want at an inauguration. But also the record of events of this kind of is not real great. There've been, I went to an academic conference once in World of Warcraft, which you see here. And it was kind of funny, right? But for one, it didn't scale very well. We couldn't have very many people there. Of course, had no idea who the heck it is you were talking to, except for what you knew about their name tags. These events are very easily sabotaged. In Second Life, once there was a panel conversation where pranksters in the audience managed to make virtual genitalia rain down upon the heads of the participants. So it's not a great idea, and it shouldn't inspire anybody with enthusiasm. We used to sometimes think we were going to live in virtual worlds, much as we have been living online for the last, almost year. Virtual worlds of this kind aren't a great model. However, if you think about, when I think about a virtual inauguration of the kind that the Democratic Convention was this year, that seems kind of, I think, very workable and in certain ways preferable. There's a lot about this moment, a lot about being in Zoom all the time that's not preferable, and none of us are liking it, and all of us can't wait for it to end. But if you think about an inauguration, it's a little bit the way I think about faculty meetings over the last almost year here at Swarthmore, which is we've been doing them in Zoom. I miss seeing people. We all miss seeing each other. There's a lot that's different about a meeting that has no physical presence. But there's some things about it where, like, the meetings have been a little more efficient. Maybe we're all sick of being on Zoom, but I think it's more than that. People are in certain ways more aware of the time that they're taking when they're speaking. We have a chat window open, so there's kind of a double conversation going on that can be very confusing, sure, but it also allows people to make, say, small objections or to add information or just to sort of affirm what was just said, or sometimes to criticize it a little bit, and for that not to interrupt the main conversation. If you think about the Democratic Convention, it let more people be involved. So in the inaugurations, when they're physical, and the inaugural balls and all the things that happen afterwards have been things that are gated off just by the sheer demands of physical presence. We could have more people involved. It could be a more democratic event in the small d sense of it, more equal, and more inclusive. And so there's some things that are kind of exciting about it as a scenario. I'm not all down on it. And I think we may learn that there are certain kinds of digital events that we want to keep doing. I attended a book launch in Cape Town, so to speak, this last year when I wouldn't have been able to go there in presence, and I saw a whole bunch of my colleagues and friends who are also study South Africa at this book launch, and none of us would have been there otherwise. So I'm looking forward to the inauguration, not the least of which because it means Biden actually becomes president. But I think an online inauguration may turn out to be a thing that we actually like. So let's hope. Fingers crossed.